I sat up in bed, my eyes snapping open with a violent start. The remnants of a bone-deep terror still clung to my skin, my heart hammering against my ribs like a caged bird desperate to escape. Sunlight streamed through the window lattice, falling across my body in warm, golden patches, and for a long moment, I just sat there, trembling, breathing in the scent of sandalwood and old paper that filled my room. Slowly, the warmth seeped into my cold limbs, and I realized I was truly alive again. I clenched my hands into fists, my nails digging into my palms until they ached. A cold, calculated fury began to simmer in my chest, replacing the lingering fear. I had to think, I had to plan. How could I destroy Pei Zhao? How could I make him pay for every drop of blood he had spilled? I knew what day it was. Today was the day Pei Zhao would be pardoned and return to the palace. The moment he received the imperial decree, his first act would be to march to our mansion with a grand procession. Seeking a marriage alliance, everyone in the capital would whisper that the third prince and the young lady of the Duke of State's mansion were a perfect match, brilliant, beautiful, destined for each other. I had once believed that too. Pei Zhao had always seemed so refined, so proper. He was graceful and courteous, never overstepping his bounds, and he was an unpopular prince, far from the struggles of the succession. I thought that if I married him, the Shen family would never have to pick a side, never face the disaster of backing the wrong horse. But I was wrong, so horribly wrong. The greatest disaster of all was Pei Zhao himself. The woman he had always wanted to marry was never me. It was Wen Ying, the servant girl I had saved from a brothel and brought into my home as my personal maid. When Pei Zhao was exiled from the palace and confined to the estate next door, Wen Ying saw her chance. She pretended to be me, the legitimate daughter of the Duke, and staged a chance encounter with him. They fell in love at first sight. Letters flew back and forth between them, secret meetings in the dead of night. She even became pregnant with his child. That was why, the moment Pei Zhao was pardoned, his first act was to come to our mansion to propose. But in that life, I had unknowingly accepted the marriage, and everything had spiraled into tragedy. This time, I would not repeat the same mistake. My maid Qingtong rushed in, her face flushed with excitement. "Miss, the third prince has come to propose." I didn't waste a second. I was already on my feet, my robes swirling around me as I strode toward the front hall. My steps were quick, purposeful, my heart pounding with a mixture of rage and anticipation. When I entered the main hall, Pei Zhao was standing before my father, speaking with an air of smug authority, his tone dripping with the self-importance of a man who had already tasted power. I recognized him instantly. He was the same man who had killed me, who had slaughtered my entire family, and from the look in his eyes when he saw me, I knew he had also come back from 10 years in the future. A flash of raw, burning hatred shot through his gaze, so intense it almost made me flinch, but I held my ground, my face a mask of calm composure. My father, oblivious to the undercurrents, smiled warmly and said, "Pearl, the third prince has taken a liking to you. He has come today to formally propose." Before he could finish, Pei Zhao cut him off with a cold, sneering laugh. "Duke Shen, you misunderstand. The woman I have come to propose to today is not your daughter, but the young lady Wen Ying of your household." The words fell like stones into still water. "Shen Mingzhu is a vicious, scheming woman. She is unworthy of my affection." The room went dead silent. My mother slammed her teacup down so hard it shattered, the porcelain shards scattering across the floor like broken stars. My father's face drained of color, his jaw tightening with barely contained fury. He had always held the third prince in high regard, praising his benevolence and princely virtue, qualities that had led him to support Pei Zhao's rise to power in the previous life. But now, I doubted my father would feel the same way. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating. You could have heard a pin drop, but Pei Zhao seemed utterly unaware of the tension he had created. After a lifetime of being above everyone else, he had forgotten how to read a room. He frowned at my mother, his tone sharp and dismissive. "It has been so long, and yet Wen Ying has not been brought here. Is this how the mistress of the Shen household manages her inner quarters?" My mother's face twisted with fury, her lips trembled, her breath catching in her throat. She had lived her entire life as a princess, raised in the royal household, and after marrying my father, she had been granted the title of first-class honored lady. She was a close friend of the Empress herself, wielding more influence in the palace than this insignificant, disgraced prince, and now, this man dared to humiliate her in her own home. She let out a cold, bitter laugh. "Oh, the third prince is absolutely right. I have indeed been a poor mistress of this household." Her voice was sharp as a blade, each word dripping with sarcasm. But Pei Zhao, blind to the danger, simply nodded, as if accepting her acknowledgement as a compliment. "Today, I've certainly gotten in the way of the third prince's affairs, but whether the third prince can marry Wenying still depends on our Mingzhu. After all, Wenying is the servant Mingzhu redeemed from the brothel, isn't she?" Wenying was someone I had saved from the brothel back then. After her parents died, her heartless uncle sold her into that life. During her escape, she collided with my carriage. It was out of pity that I redeemed her. Later, seeing she was an orphan with nowhere to go, I took her in at my home, gave her simple tasks like sweeping and cleaning. I even thought that if she ever found a good husband, I would return her contract to her. But who would have guessed she'd be so audacious as to steal my identity? And in the end, because of her foolishness back then, she caused the deaths of all 280 members of my family. But in this life, I have no intention of being the villain who separates lovebirds. On the contrary, I'm going to help them get together. After all, a scumbag and a slut deserve to be tied together. I lowered my eyes, hiding the hatred within them, and spoke in a gentle tone. "Since the third prince has taken a liking to Wenying, that's her blessing. As her mistress, I naturally consent. Qingtong, go and invite Wenying here for the third prince." Qingtong acknowledged the order and left. Pei Zhao hadn't expected me to be so reasonable. He looked at me in surprise. I met his gaze calmly, putting on a facade of genuine happiness for Wenying. I wanted him to understand, whether in the past life or this one, I never cared for him. If he had just been clear with me back then, I would never have come between them. Under Pei Zhao's probing gaze, Wenying was brought in. The moment she saw Pei Zhao, her delicate frame swayed, and 2 streams of tears slid down her cheeks. "Mr. Pei, you really came." Pei Zhao looked at her with deep affection too. It had been 10 years since he last saw her. "Ying, I'm really here." I let out a laugh, breaking the lingering atmosphere in the room. Wenying and the third prince really do have a deep bond, but Wenying is by my side every day, and I had no idea when the two of you got together. After saying this, I turned my gaze to Wenying, startled by my question. She immediately lowered her head in guilt, her body trembling as if in fear. Seeing his beloved like this, Pei Zhao immediately frowned in displeasure. "Miss Shen, you carry yourself with such authority. Even in my presence, you dare to bully Wenying like this. Know that she will soon be the third princess, and her status will far surpass yours. Miss Shen, when you see her, you'll have to kneel." This was a blatant humiliation. Hearing this, my mother was so furious she burst into loud coughs. My father, his beard trembling, glared at Pei Zhao with rage, wishing he could throw him out immediately. I clenched my fists, looked at Pei Zhao's arrogant face, and put on a hurt expression. "I don't understand why the third prince holds such a grudge against me. I was only saying that if I had known earlier that Wenying and the third prince were in love, I would have returned her contract to her long ago." At this, I looked at Wenying. "Wenying, after I saved you from the brothel, I allowed you to leave. It was you who said you had nowhere to go, so I took you in at this manor. I also promised you that if you ever found a good man, you must tell me, and I would give you back your contract. Do you still remember these words?" Wenying glanced at me nervously and whispered, "I remember." Pei Zhao was stunned. He hadn't expected me to be so magnanimous. Had he been wrong to hate me all those years ago? Ignoring Pei Zhao, I had Qingtong retrieve Wenying's contract and personally handed it to her. Since the third prince and you share mutual affection, I naturally have no objections. "Here, this is for you. You're free." Wenying knelt down to me in gratitude. Pei Zhao remained dazed, only snapping out of it when he saw Wenying kneel. He grabbed her hand and pulled her up. "You belong to me now. Why should you kneel to some mere miss?" My mother could no longer bear it. The third prince carries himself with such arrogance, repeatedly humiliating our Mingzhu. Do you truly think our Shen family has no one left? Pei Zhao snorted coldly. Miss Shen knows what she's done. Ask her if she ever had any other intentions toward Wenying. My father was taken aback. What intentions could Mingzhu have toward Wenying? Pei Zhao said arrogantly. Like killing Wenying and taking her place. My father looked at him strangely. Take her place? What does Wenying have that my Mingzhu would want to take, to the point of killing her? Pei Zhao cast a disdainful glance at me. Of course, killing Wenying to take her place as my third princess. This time, my father actually laughed. I laughed too. Did Pei Zhao really not understand the situation? Was being his third princess something to be proud of? Third prince. Watch your words. You are indeed an exceptional man, no doubt the ideal husband for many young ladies, but as far as I know, you were recently confined by His Majesty and are the only prince among the brothers who, at 18, has yet to receive a title or estate. I don't think you're so sought after in this capital that I, Shen Mingzhu, would be driven to kill my own maid just to take her place. In other words, Pei Zhao, this fallen third prince, wasn't worth my effort. Having said this, I stopped pretending and looked at him with disgust. Pei Zhao flinched at my gaze. I may not be favored by my father now. But you should know this is only temporary. In the future, I will be. He stopped himself, regaining his composure, not daring to say he would be the future emperor. He glared at me hatefully. How do you know I won't gain my father's favor in the future? Even if I, Pei Zhao, am nothing much, I am still the third prince. From now on, you will have to bow to me and Wenying. You'll be beneath my feet for the rest of your life. My father and mother were once again infuriated by Pei Zhao. Brother, you carry yourself with such authority. Why must you always demand others bow to you? Amid the tension, Pei Yuan strode in from outside. His eyes lit up when he saw me, those jet-black feathers of his gaze gleaming with a sudden spark. Miss Mingzhu, Pei Zhao is always making others bow to him. Don't marry him, marry me instead. If you marry me, you'll be Pei Zhao's second sister-in-law. Not only will he never make you bow to him, but he'll have to bow to you whenever he sees you. Hearing this, Pei Zhao's face instantly turned as dark as a storm cloud. Pei Yuan was born of the same mother as the current crown prince, both sons of the empress. He ranked second, making him Pei Zhao's elder brother, far more noble than Pei Zhao, whose birth mother was a palace maid. Unlike the crown prince, who had always been frail, Pei Yuan was in excellent health. He had campaigned against the northern Rong at a young age, reclaiming 15 cities they had seized, before he even reached 20. He was in theft as the martial king, granted the wealthiest lands of Nancheng and Yangcheng in my past life. After the crown prince died, had Pei Yuan not been indifferent to the throne, no matter how fiercely Pei Zhao fought, the emperor's seat would never have fallen to him. But such a man, so detached from ambition, had, upon learning of my tragic death, picked up the sword he had long set aside. He rode south, stormed into Pei Zhao's golden throne hall, and killed him with a single stroke, avenging my entire family. Yet he himself, old wounds reopening, bled out and died at the thought. My eyes burned. I looked at Pei Yuan, my gaze red-rimmed seeing me like this. Pei Yuan, a man usually so composed, his voice trembling, said, Miss Mingzhu, have I offended you? If you don't want to marry me, then don't, but as long as I protect you, that Pei Zhao won't make you bow casually. My eyes grew even redder. No, it's not that. I am willing to marry you. The words fell. Pei Yuan was overcome with wild joy, but beside him, Pei Zhao's face darkened further. Pei Yuan kicked Pei Zhao in the back of the knee. You little brat, hurry up and pay respects to your second sister-in-law. Caught off guard, Pei Zhao actually knelt straight down before me. His face was as dark as the bottom of a pot, his eyes, cold as if looking at the dead, swept over us once. Through gritted teeth, he said to me, second sister-in-law, good, may you both live well. Then, pulling Wenying by the hand, he left without looking back. My engagement to Pei Yuan was thus settled. That evening, after sending off the overjoyed Pei Yuan, my father, still fuming over Pei Zhao's arrogance, said, that brat truly isn't worth dealing with. I was blind before, thinking he was decent. My mother immediately added fuel to the fire. Exactly, last time you even said His Majesty was biased. That the third prince, despite his low-born mother, had talent and virtue. You even said that this time, when he returned to the palace, you wanted to help him secure a post in the Ministry of Personnel in front of His Majesty, but seeing how arrogant he is, he doesn't seem virtuous at all, I quickly chimed in. Exactly, I think not only is he arrogant, but he also holds a grudge against our entire family. Now, even as a down-and-out third prince, he constantly makes me bow to him. If he ever gains power in the Ministry of Personnel, who knows how he'll suppress us? My father's beard quivered. Right, he must not go to the Ministry of Personnel, and he must never gain power. My mother nodded firmly. Absolutely, we cannot let that brat gain any advantage. I'll go back to my maiden home tomorrow and tell my brothers to give him no help. The next day, my mother hurriedly returned to the prince's mansion. Once there, she recounted Pei Zhao's outrages to my uncles and aunts. When they heard how he had disrespected me, my uncles, who doted on me immensely, were furious. These uncles of mine were military commanders like Pei Yuan. They and Pei Yuan held the majority of the empire's army, one in the west, one in the north. As long as they were around, Pei Zhao would never obtain military resources in this lifetime. After venting to my uncles and aunts, my mother sent a memorial to the palace and took me to see the empress. When we met her, she repeated the same words she had told my uncles and aunts. The crown prince happened to be there as well. Hearing this, he fell into thought. It seems my third brother has harbored improper ambitions, otherwise, he wouldn't behave so recklessly. I'll have to guard against him from now on. Those in power are often suspicious. The crown prince was no exception. Pei Zhao was truly finished this time. He had hoped, as in his past life, to rely on my father's support to wash away the emperor's prejudice and rise swiftly. That was now utterly impossible. When Wenying left the mansion, I had someone secretly take her pulse. She was already 3 months pregnant, yet Pei Zhao had delayed marrying her. I knew he was waiting for the lucrative post in the Ministry of Personnel to fall into his hands, as it had in his past life, so he could marry Wenying in grand style. After all, as a down-and-out third prince, a lavish wedding was out of reach. But in this life, he was destined never to see that post land on his head. Though he had been released from house arrest and allowed back into the palace, the emperor still disliked him. The emperor had once publicly called him the bastard born of a slave woman. In my past life, because my father valued talent and because of me, my parents were the only ones willing to help him. Now, my parents would never lift a finger again. Another month passed, and Pei Zhao's situation remained dire. He tried to follow his past life memories and do something, but he found that no matter what he attempted, the crown prince and his men would find reasons to cause him trouble. He couldn't move an inch. His life had become even harder than before. Even his monthly allowance had been reduced. He was scraping by, becoming the poorest prince in history. But Wenying's belly could no longer wait. In utter desperation, he had to act first. After all, if Wenying's stomach grew any larger, it couldn't be hidden. For a third prince to marry a maidservant was unprecedented in our dynasty. But Pei Zhao had so little presence before the emperor that His Majesty didn't even inquire. He simply said to handle it casually. The 28th of May was an auspicious day for weddings. Pei Zhao hastily held a wedding for Wenying in the house next to ours. How grand my wedding to him had been in my past life, this one was just as shoddy. I heard that day Pei Zhao pawned his most treasured jade pendant, the one he kept hidden at the bottom of his chest, just to set up 20 tables of banquet. But because he had offended my family, and the crown prince, and the second prince as well, barely anyone showed up. Pei Zhao was absolutely livid. Things kept going wrong for Pei Zhao. It didn't take him long to figure out the root of the problem. He found me when I was out. Shen Mingzhu, you've come back too, haven't you? Pei Zhao's face was a mask of frost, his eyes blazing with fury as he glared at me, just like the way he looked at me in my past life, right before he killed me. But back then, he wore a yellow robe and golden boots, standing above 10,000 men. A single word from him, spoken so lightly, could take the lives of all 280 members of my family. How different it was now. Even if he glared at me with all his might, it was nothing but impotent rage. I looked at him and smiled with contempt. no longer hiding the surging hatred in my eyes. Yes, I'm back. Pei Zhao, have you figured out how you want to die? Pei Zhao let out a sigh, putting on a helpless expression. Mingzhu, I know you're deeply in love with me, but I already have Yingying. Why must you force yourself in and make things difficult for everyone? You know perfectly well that I don't like someone like you, a proper, rule-following lady from a noble house. I like Yingying. She's been to many places, seen many different things, and she even knows medicine. Tell me, what do you know? Don't think I don't realize your current reputation for talent is all thanks to Yingying's efforts. I was almost amused by Pei Zhao's shamelessness. He was blinded by Wen Ying's lies, believing I was nothing but a fool, and on top of that, he still clung to the delusion that I loved him. When he saw me smile, he thought he was right, so he pressed on. You did many evil things in your past life, even causing Yingying's death, but I killed your entire family too. Now that we've both started over in this life, let's call it even. Alright, I replied coldly. Even, you're dreaming. Pei Zhao shot me a disapproving look. Mingzhu, if you keep pestering me like this, it's just pointless. If you really can't let go of me, I'll take you as a noble concubine at most. You might not become empress, but I can still grant you the title of imperial consort. I slapped him, shattering Pei Zhao's dream. Dream on. Pei Zhao touched his face in disbelief, his eyes reddening as he glared at me in fury. You bitch, how dare you hit me? I'm hitting you, you daydreaming wretch. You killed all 280 members of my family, and you didn't even spare the child in my womb. And yet you dare to think we can call it even, and that I would become your concubine. Pei Zhao, you're heartless and ungrateful. Devoid of all righteousness. In this life, I'll make sure you know that without the support of my Shen family, you'll live worse than a dog. Just wait one day. I'll rip out your heart and tear you apart. It will be a fight to the death between us. Pei Zhao and I parted on bad terms, our faces completely torn. But I wasn't afraid at all. Thinking of the tragedy in my past life, where my entire family died without a proper burial, I swore that this time I would cut him into 1,000 pieces and kill him with my own hands to find peace. Pei Zhao tried many schemes, but he couldn't win the emperor's favor. Worse, he discovered that with the crown prince, the second prince, and Pei Yuan blocking him, he couldn't even get an audience with the emperor. Still, he managed to beg for a position. An epidemic had broken out in the southwest, and he requested to go there for disaster relief. Normally, this task wouldn't have fallen to him, but he swore a military oath in front of the entire court. The emperor, for the first time, saw some use in this son of his, and agreed. He even promised that if Pei Zhao succeeded in the relief efforts, he would grant him his own residence and title, treating him equally with his brothers. Pei Zhao was nearly ecstatic with joy. Before Pei Zhao left, he ambushed me again at the shop I frequented. He glared at me hatefully. Shen Mingzhu, do you think without your Shen family, I, Pei Zhao, can't rise up? You're wrong. Without you, I can still stand above 10,000 men. When I return from the southwest, I'll make sure everyone sees your hypocritical, vicious face. I looked at his confident face and laughed. Then I wish you success in advance. Just don't die in the epidemic zone. Pei Zhao stormed off. The next day, he set out for the epidemic zone with his men. Wen Ying went with him. When Pei Yuan told me this news, his face was full of disapproval. What's wrong with that Pei Zhao? His wife is 5 months pregnant, and he still drags her into the epidemic zone. Others say he loves his wife to death, but I don't think so. Mingzhu, even if I were to die, I would never put you in such danger. Looking at Pei Yuan's earnest expression, my eyes grew hot. Of course, I believed he meant what he said. In my past life, he had been willing to storm the imperial city for me. But Pei Zhao, he didn't really love Wen Ying. He loved himself more, because he thought my literary fame came from Wen Ying. He was so foolish that he believed whatever she said. He thought Wen Ying was the one who wrote poetry and knew medicine, so he naturally assumed that the prescription that saved the Southwest in the past life was Wen Ying's idea. In that past life, although the disaster relief wasn't handled by Pei Zhao, the prescription that cured the epidemic came from me. I found it in an ancient book and offered it to the court. I was already engaged to Pei Zhao then. Because of this prescription, The emperor thought highly of him, gave him a lot of money, and promoted him, but instead of being grateful, he added another mark against me. Thinking I had stolen his beloved's credit again this time, I wouldn't steal it, I would just watch coldly as Pei Zhao walked to his doom. Sure enough, in less than half a month, news came from the southwest. Third Prince Pei Zhao not only failed to control the plague, but he had also caught the disease himself. Just when I thought he might die in the epidemic zone, another explosive piece of news arrived. Pei Zhao had returned. He was brought back by his newlywed wife, who had drugged him unconscious. She thought the epidemic zone was too dangerous. How could someone as precious as Pei Zhao stay in such a perilous place? The court was in an uproar. Never before had an imperial commissioner accepted a mission and not only failed to complete it, but also fled. He even came back early. Even more absurdly, he actually brought the deadly plague straight into the capital. When I heard this news, I was so thrilled that I immediately handed over the cure to Pei Yuan. I let him take it to the emperor. I had originally planned to wait a few days, to drag Pei Zhao down until he was dead before bringing it out. But now, I didn't want to wait anymore. He had committed such a foolish act. I only wanted him to live, to properly face his own downfall. Pei Zhao was finished. Half a month later, along with the triumphant news of great success in the southwest, came word that Pei Zhao had been deposed. The emperor cursed him for being absurd and incompetent. He said this bastard didn't even deserve to be a prince. He was stripped down to a commoner. Pei Zhao had lost everything. Even the courtyard next to our house had been taken back by the emperor. When I saw Pei Zhao outside the palace, he was being driven out from within. At that time, his plague had just healed. He was gaunt and bony, as wretched as a drenched stray dog. When Ying stumbled beside him, clutching her large belly, crying uncontrollably. But Pei Zhao, who had once claimed to love her as his life, this time, he didn't even glance at her. I thought, now that it had come to this, he finally knew that some things were fake. The one skilled in medicine had never been her. When Ying, I assumed after that day, I wouldn't see Pei Zhao again. But on the day of the Mid-Autumn Palace banquet, I had just left the house when my carriage suddenly broke down on the road. The coachman went to find help, but didn't return for a long time. By the time I sensed something was wrong, I got out to check. The moment I lifted the carriage curtain, I saw Pei Zhao standing right outside. He was wearing the white robes I had once loved to see him in. They made him look elegant and refined, like a drifting immortal. He mimicked the way I had liked best in my past life, giving me a gentle smile. "Mingyu, I'm here." I let out a cold laugh. "What are you here for? To seek death?" Pei Zhao seemed completely oblivious to my disgust, still speaking to me warmly. "Mingyu, I finally know the truth. It was that bitch Wen Ying who stirred up trouble. She's been deceiving me all along. She doesn't know medicine at all, and she has no talent. She tricked me so terribly." I snorted. "That's because you're blind and heart-blind." Pei Zhao lowered his head. "Yes, I was wrong. So Mingyu, I've come to apologize to you. Look." Pei Zhao pointed excitedly at a shadowy spot not far away. I followed his gaze and saw Wen Ying, heavily pregnant, tied up there. Wen Ying was bound all over, a rag stuffed in her mouth. When she saw Pei Zhao walk over, she struggled violently, but Pei Zhao acted as if her pain was invisible. He calmly drew a sword from his waist. Then, smiling at me, he said, "Mingyu, I'll kill her now, to avenge you." With that, he plunged the sword straight into Wen Ying's large belly, twisting it back and forth. "I killed your child back then. Now I'll give you one back." All right, he was truly insane, that bastard, that scumbag. He didn't love Wen Ying, and he didn't love me. He only loved himself. Wen Ying quickly lost her breath. Pei Zhao dropped the sword, smiling at me. "Now we're even. Mingyu, can you come back to me now? Be with me. I promise I'll love you properly this time. Dream on." Along with those words came the sound of a blade cutting through the air. The next moment, Pei Zhao was kicked to the ground. It was Pei Yuan who had arrived. I knew he would come. If he couldn't find me at the palace gate, he would definitely come looking. Pei Yuan dealt with Pei Zhao harshly. He left him barely breathing, with hardly a spot of his body unharmed. Pei Zhao was thrown into prison by Pei Yuan. Now he was no longer a prince. He had to face the same punishment as a commoner. Killing Wen Ying meant he had to pay with his life for hers. But Pei Zhao wasn't calm in prison either. According to the jailers, He kept shouting all day that he wanted to see the Crown Prince, because in less than 3 months, the Crown Prince would die, only he could save the Crown Prince. But the Crown Prince didn't want to see his cold-hearted, unfeeling brother, the one who would kill even his own child and the woman by his side, let alone anything else. When Pei Zhao saw the Crown Prince didn't believe him, he predicted a few more future events in the capital, for example, that the matriarch of the Hu residence would die next month, that a concubine in the minister's mansion was having an affair, that the chancellor's wife would have a late-in-life child, pregnant again at first, everyone thought he was speaking madness, but as these things came true one by one, people couldn't help but believe he could predict the future. Even the Crown Prince grew afraid. The Crown Prince met with Pei Zhao, begging for a way to break the curse. Pei Zhao said he could help the Crown Prince, but the condition was that I be married to him. When I learned of this, Pei Yuan was so furious he almost stormed the prison to kill Pei Zhao, but Pei Zhao was already under the Crown Prince's protection, and the Crown Prince's health was indeed failing. He started coughing up blood. He believed Pei Zhao's words and agreed to the condition. When Pei Yuan heard the news, he held me in despair. "Mingyu, am I going to lose you this time too?" In that instant, everything fell into place. Why Pei Yuan had rushed to propose, why he had been so worried about my safety. I hugged Pei Yuan back, telling him everything would be fine because this time, the Crown Prince would definitely die. It wouldn't even take 3 months. In my past life, the Crown Prince died in the Crown Princess's bed. Everyone thought it was a sudden attack from exhaustion, but only I knew he had been terminally ill for a long time. I had found a prescription that extended his life by over a month, and the Crown Prince knew this too. That's why he was in such a hurry to be with the Crown Princess, to leave behind a child, but he never expected to die in bed. Pei Zhao's method was surely to make the Crown Prince abstain from sex, then he could smoothly survive the 3-month period. But this time, without me, the Crown Prince would only die sooner. Sure enough, in less than a month, the Crown Prince died suddenly in his study, and Pei Zhao was right there in front of him. When he heard the news, the grief-stricken emperor hated Pei Zhao to the bone. He called him a demon outright, sentencing him to death by dismemberment with 5 horses. On the day of the execution, Pei Zhao spotted me in the crowd watching. "Yu Ming, why is it like this? Why isn't it supposed to be this way? Tell them I am the emperor. I cannot die. I am the future emperor." The moment those treasonous words left his lips, the executioner's blade sliced through his tongue in a single, brutal stroke. Then came the cuts, one after another, relentless. At last, I had avenged the blood of my entire family, all 280 souls, from my past life. Today is the winter solstice, an auspicious day for marriage. On this day, I finally married Pei Yuan. I became the second prince's consort within 2 months. Pei Yuan was named Crown Prince. Pei Yuan told me that in our past life, he had seen how much I wanted the throne, so he chose not to contend for it. But later, he realized that without power, he couldn't even protect the one he loved. This time, he refused to let that happen again. 10 years later, I became empress once more, but this time, the man by my side was Pei Yuan. On the day I entered the central palace, Pei Yuan held my hand tightly. I knew, from this day forward, he would be with me every single day, never to be parted. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. I am the kitchen maid in the household of a treacherous minister, possessing immense strength, capable of doing the work of 3. After the treacherous minister had beaten to death over a dozen maids who tried to climb into his bed, there was finally no one left to serve him his meals. If you go and do a good job, don't try to climb into his bed. Your monthly salary will be raised to 5 taels. If you can last 3 years, I guarantee you'll return home in glory. But if you do try to climb into his bed, not only will you not get the silver, but you'll also lose your life. The old butler held my hand and earnestly advised me, fearing I might be bewitched and ruin myself. 2 years later, the treacherous minister, taking advantage of the absence of others, pretended to be drunk over tea and repeatedly tried to drag me onto the bed. I kicked him over, tied my collar and waist tightly with a rope, even making a dead knot at my crotch, and declared with unwavering resolve, "Sir, I'll tell you the truth today, I would rather die than climb onto this bed. I am the strongest girl in the village, in the entire Tonghua village. Each person has 10 acres of land. After finishing my own, I can easily take care of Brother Kui's land as well. When the uncles and aunts in the village take a break, they always give a thumbs up to Brother Kui, who sits under the shed drinking tea and watching me plow the fields. Kui-kan, you've really found a good wife in Shinshi. This girl is capable, more hardworking than the oxen in the village. With her here, you won't have to worry about the money for your studies. Brother Kui smiled gently, carefully arranging the books before taking a handkerchief and walking over to the field to thoughtfully wipe the sweat from my brow. Shinshi, after plowing 2 more acres, take a break. The sun is strong today, and you've gotten even darker. Any darker and you'll match the charcoal we burn at home. I looked up at the scorching sun, then glanced at the fair-skinned Brother Kui, and quickly pushed him toward the shed. What are you doing here? Hurry back and sit down, or you'll get sunburned. Brother Kui has always been considerate, never wanting me to worry about him. Seeing my concern, he covered his face with his wide sleeve, jogged back to the shed, and even waved his book at me as he went. Shinshi, don't rush, there are still 3 hours until sunset. Take your time, I'll sit here reading and keep you company. I gave Brother Kui a grateful smile, then swung my arms and bent over to continue plowing the field. I had thought such days could last a lifetime. I had it all planned out in a couple of years. When Brother Kui passed the imperial examination and I was about to come of age, we would get married at that time. He would teach and nurture the next generation in the village, while I would plow the fields, feed the pigs, and do the farm work. We would live a harmonious and happy life together. However, fate had other plans, and we encountered a severe drought that hadn't been seen in decades. It didn't rain all year long. The small river in the village dried up and cracked into pieces like broken dry rations, and the crops in the fields all withered and died. The strong men in the village went out to work on farms to support their families, but only Brother Kui insisted on staying in the village to study. Hunger had reduced people to skin and bones, their lips cracked, yet they were unwilling to leave. Shinshi, in this lifetime, I am determined to pass the imperial examination and become a scholar. I am different from all of you. Even without knowledge, you can still toil like oxen and horses, but I cannot do that. My father was a scholar, and he taught me to read and write from a young age. I was born to be a scholar. I'd rather starve than do those dirty, exhausting jobs that would disgrace all the knowledge I've acquired. Brother Kui has always had high ambitions and great learning, even though he hasn't passed the preliminary imperial examination yet, but I believe that one day, he will become the first scholar in our village to teach. Brother Kui, don't worry, you just focus on your studies. I've got your back. I have the strength to do any kind of work, although I can't farm the land right now. The landlord in the village is hiring long-term laborers. I'm sure I can do it. Just wait for me to send money back to you. Brother Kui was so moved that tears streamed down his face. He held my hand and said with great care, Shinshi, that landlord is a real skinflint. Even if you have the strength, he definitely won't give you the silver you deserve. You're so honest. You're bound to get the short end of the stick. I thought about it, and it made sense that skinflint would do anything to cheat and swindle. There wasn't a single villager who came back from working at their place without cursing them. Then, Brother Kui, what do you think I should do? Brother Kui took my hand and sat me down on the wooden stool, speaking earnestly. Shinshi, here's what I think. Since you have to work anyway, and you're so strong, why must you stay in the village to do it? I heard from a scholar who went to the capital for the imperial exams the year before last that there's a minister in the capital whose household hires long-term laborers all year round. The most important thing is that the pay is exceptionally high, even higher than what the eunuchs serving the emperor in the palace receive. If you go, you might be able to return home in glory within a year. By then, we'll have the money for our wedding, and I'll also have the funds to travel to the capital for the imperial exams. You don't need to go out to work anymore, just tend the fields, feed the pigs, have children, and take care of me. What do you say? Brother Kui has read many books and has broad knowledge. I trust his judgment, so I thickened the soles of my shoes overnight, shouldered a small bundle, took a few hard, dry cakes, and traveled for 2 months to reach the capital. just as Brother Kui had said. The steward of the minister's residence had indeed set up a sign on the street to recruit servants. Surprisingly, every woman who came to apply was as beautiful as a flower, but the steward didn't even glance at them. Instead, he took a single look and chose me from the crowd. It wasn't until I entered the mansion that I finally had a chance to ask the steward, "Sir, why did you pass over all those beautiful girls and pick me instead?" The steward stroked his beard with an air of profound mystery. "Only your tall temperament is most suited for tending the fire steadily. I became the fire-tending maid in the minister's residence, earning 1 tael of silver each month because I was as strong as an ox and always kept busy, eagerly taking on others' tasks whenever I had free time. I got along exceptionally well with everyone in the backyard. One afternoon, I was huffing and puffing as I swept the ground with a broom taller than myself. Yesterday, little Kui, who usually fetches water, was assigned to serve the master in the front courtyard. She was so delighted that she spent the whole afternoon cracking melon seeds and spitting the shells into the brick crevices, making them incredibly difficult to clean. I ended up working on it for over 2 hours. Just as the cook called me to tend the fire, I happened to see a group of people in black and gold guard uniforms dragging something as they hurriedly made their way from the front courtyard toward the back. I thought the uniform looked quite handsome, making the wearer appear broad-shouldered and narrow-waisted, very imposing, so I decided that once I got my wages, I would have one made for Brother Kui if he wore such a uniform to take the exam. It would surely give him an air of authority. For a moment, I was stunned, until the crowd came right before my eyes, and only then did I realize what were they dragging. They were dragging Xiaotsue. Xiaotsue's newly changed floral cloth clothes were torn to shreds by the whip, blood covering the original pattern. Her face was pale and purple, her eyes wide open. "Xiaotsue, what happened to you?" I took a step forward, but was stopped by the leading guard. He glanced at me and hurried away. It was only when tending the fire that the cook told me last night Xiaotsue had dropped the master's calming tea, hoping to climb into his bed after the master discovered it. He refused to let her die easily. The guards held back their strength and beat her all night, and she breathed her last this morning. I think of her wide-open eyes again. No wonder she didn't respond. She had been beaten to death. The cook also told me that the master's name is Shu, the youngest minister in the dynasty's history. Unfortunately, he has a bad reputation and questionable character. Not only is he obsessed with money, but he is also ruthless and cruel. But because his appearance was too outstanding, he was exceptionally popular with women. The maids who entered the mansion came one after another. When one died, a new one would quickly take her place. With so many people already dead, how dare they still throw themselves at him? The cook waved her spatula while vigorously shaking the wok, her voice booming like a bell, making my eardrums feel like bellows. "Ah, isn't that just how people are? What does someone else's failure have to do with me? Everyone thinks they're different from the rest. Besides, take a chance, and a sparrow can turn into a phoenix. Once you've made it to the city, which fool would want to go back to the village? I do." The thought of Brother Kui, starving to the point of being skin and bones, made me eager to return home. I wonder how Brother Kui has been eating these past 2 months since I left, and whether the kind-hearted auntie next door might have taken pity on him and helped him out a bit. Thinking of this, I started stoking the fire with renewed vigor. I must work hard. I must put in all my effort. As soon as I get the silver, I'll send it back right away. I mustn't let Brother Kui worry. As a result, I didn't get to receive my monthly allowance. The steward came looking for me. "Xiao Hei, come here." The steward stood at the entrance of the courtyard, leaning against the wall and calling out. He called for a long time, but no one answered. I looked around. I've been in this courtyard for 2 months now, and I don't remember anyone named Little Black. "Stop looking. It's you, the dark one." "Yeah, you. The darkest one." I put down the axe I was using to chop firewood, wiped my hands on my clothes, and walked over to him. "What's up? Payday?" The butler looked at me as if I were a fool, but his tone was gentler than when we first met. "Blackie, want to earn more wages?" Of course I did. I nodded vigorously. Brother Kui was still waiting for me to earn money so I could go back, get married, and take the imperial exams. "Blackie, there's a good job right now that could multiply your wages several times over. Are you willing to do it? I'm willing, I've got strength, I can do any kind of work. The steward was quite pleased. Are you willing to serve the master in the front courtyard? This I rubbed my hands together and answered honestly, I'm not willing. He beats and kills people, and I still have to go back to the village to get married. The butler was even more relieved, taking my hand and leading me toward the front courtyard. Well said, you're the one. Don't be afraid either, our master isn't that hard to serve, as long as you don't climb into his bed or try to seduce him. The steward spoke, disdainfully sizing me up, and then said with a smile, Hey, Heisey, from now on your monthly allowance will be raised to 5 taels. Work hard for 3 years, and I guarantee you'll return to your village in a grand manner to get married. But if you try to climb into bed, not only will you lose your silver, but your life will be in danger. 5 taels of silver, what a great deal. I thumped my chest and declared loudly, Sir, please rest assured, I have a fiancé, and I would rather die than climb onto the master's bed. 3 hours passed, and I was nearly falling asleep waiting. Hishu returned to the mansion nonchalantly, carrying a black hawk. On his hand the steward bowed and smiled obsequiously. My lord, this one is absolutely well behaved. You will surely be pleased. Oh, this one isn't human. No, 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 the previous ones were only unruly because they had some charm. This one, however, is uniquely ugly and possesses a profound self-awareness. Before coming, she swore to the heavens that she was so ugly it was unbearable, and she didn't even dare look in the mirror on ordinary days. She said she would rather die than dare to approach the Lord. Moreover, she has an fiancé in the village. Being ugly, she's afraid of being abandoned, so she doesn't dare act recklessly. I pouted, glaring angrily at the steward. What kind of nonsense is this? Who's so ugly they don't dare look in the mirror? As they spoke, the two had already approached. The man stood tall and straight, wearing a dark blue robe with a jade belt around his waist. His deep-set features were both languid and indifferent. He lifted his eyelids to glance at me, his face as clear and handsome as moonlight, yet with an unrestrained aura. Oh, my goddess, he's even more handsome than Brother Kui. Are you sure this isn't a Kunlun slave? We don't keep foreigners in the mansion. She has a household registration. From Tonghua village, there was a severe drought there, so she came to the capital to find work. Hishu sat in the chair, lazily smiling as he played with the hawk. Do I look good? I noticed his smile was rather improper, so I took a step back, tightened my belt, and said insincerely, My lord, my family has arranged a marriage for me. My elder brother Kui is preparing for the imperial examinations and is better looking than you. My heart belongs only to him. The steward gave me a thumbs up after hearing this, and seeing that I had answered correctly, I grinned with relief. Hizun's gaze finally shifted from the hawk to my face. Immediately, he closed his eyes and took a deep breath, his tone showing signs of irritation. In the future, when you serve, cover your face with a cloth and get out. Hishu is extremely difficult to serve. He's demanding and sharp-tongued. At the slightest dissatisfaction, he resorts to personal attacks. But for Brother Kui, I gritted my teeth and held on. Half a month later, Brother Kui finally sent a letter. Shinshi, the neighbor's family has run out of food, and my kerosene lamp isn't working either. When will you send the silver back? Seeing the letter, I was in a state of panic. It took me nearly 2 months to travel here, and I've been staying in the mansion for over 2 months. I'm well fed and warm, and I've even gained a little weight recently. But my Brother Kui, the more I think about it, the sadder I become. I remember the steward saying that we only get paid after completing 3 months of work, and now I'm still about 10 days short, which makes me so anxious that I can't stop crying. Luckily, Hishu is off today, and when he's not attending court, he likes to stay in the courtyard and tend to his hawks. A man and an eagle stared at each other, their eyes wide, for 2 or 3 hours in this motionless gaze. Perhaps my sobs were a bit too loud, as Hishu heard them. Crying because you're ugly. I looked up in confusion, suddenly remembering that the frame of Hishu's mirror was made of gold. I was afraid it would rust, so I breathed on it and polished it for half an hour. He probably misunderstood. I cried as I spread the letter out for him to see. Sir, can I get an advance on my wages? Please be assured, I will still work hard and won't be idle. Hishu rested with his eyes closed, speaking lazily. Your family isn't without anyone. What do you need the wages for? Is the mansion short of your food? That was indeed not the case. Hishu's meals were always exquisite, with 10 dishes served at every meal, but he ate little and usually rewarded them to me. I briefly explained what had happened with Brother Kui, and after hearing it, Hishu remained silent for a long time for some reason. He chuckled softly and quipped, "Without some money, people certainly wouldn't be willing to wait." Before I could figure out what he meant, he instructed, "Go, send 20 taels of silver to Tonghua village, and deliver a few bags of flour as well." I was deeply moved, my eyes welling up with tears. "Your Excellency, you're different from the rumors. You're truly a great man. I will repay your kindness by working like a beast of burden in the future." Hishu clicked his tongue. Compared to my gratitude, he seemed more interested in the rumors. "What do the rumors say?" I tilted my head and scratched it. "It's not pleasant, so I won't tell you." "It's fine. I have a broad mind and can take it as entertainment." I thought about it and realized that's true. They say a prime minister's stomach can hold a boat. Although the Lord is not a prime minister, with his high position, he shouldn't be narrow-minded, so I poured out the beans to him. "They say you're so greedy, even more so than Jew Barpi, and that if a swallow flies by your door, you'd pluck 2 feathers to make a fan." Hishu raised an eyebrow, neither confirming nor denying. "They also say you swindle and deceive, using your power to bully and oppress. Whenever someone asks you for a favor, you demand an exorbitant price. Once the silver is handed over, you can turn black into white, and even a death sentence can be changed to exile." Hishu smiled gently, seeing that he not only wasn't angry but seemed quite pleased. As if taking it as entertainment, I became even more enthusiastic in my speech. "They also say that those women climbing into your bed don't do it because they like you. Someone like you, a troublemaker, could never be liked. They climb into your bed just hoping to marry in and squander your fortune, living off your wealth and enjoying a carefree life for the rest of their days." Hearing this, Hishu furrowed his brow deeply, slowly lifting his eyelids. "You can curse me all you want, but you're dreaming if you think you'll spend my money." I nodded in agreement. "Exactly, it's a dream. They're not worthy of you." Hishu gave me a fake smile, then turned and walked out of the courtyard. Half his leg was already out the gate when he turned back and smiled at me. "Hey Easy, do you know why I paid you in advance?" I replied devoutly, "Because your Excellency is kind-hearted." "No, because you're ugly, like you, so ugly. If you don't have some silver to be remembered, it's really hard to get married." With that, he left without looking back. I scratched my head, confused, and asked the hidden guard on the tree, "What does the Lord mean? I don't understand." The leaves rustled, and after a while, a deep voice fell. "Kuroko, the master has a narrow mind, so you should tell fewer truths in the future." Kazuma's mind is indeed narrow. Just because I spoke a few truths, he ignored me for half a month, and even though he would rather throw the food away, he wouldn't give it to me. He already had so little to say, and now he doesn't speak at all. Even when serving him his meals, he wouldn't say what he wanted. Instead, he would whisper it into Black Hawk's ear, letting the bird point it out to me. But I wasn't upset, because the guard who went to deliver money to Brother Kui had finally returned. "Guard son, how is Brother Kui doing? Is the neighbor auntie taking good care of him?" Guard son looked at me, scratched his nose, and gave a dry laugh. "She's being taken care of very well. Don't worry, black girl. That's great, brother son. Thank you so much. The boss specifically asked for beef jerky today, so I made a bit extra. You've been working the night shift so hard. Here, take this jerky and eat it." Brother son took the jerky, his lips twitching as if he wanted to say something but hesitated. "What's wrong, brother son? Is something the matter with Brother Kui?" "Black girl, working here. It's not easy. That silver, you should keep it for yourself to rely on. That Mr. Kui looks strong and healthy, no matter what kind of work he does. Can't he support himself?" I grinned at brother son. "Brother son, you don't know, Brother Kui is a scholar. He can't do much physical work, but I've got strength. I'll serve the master well to earn more money. When we save enough silver, and Brother Kui passes the Shotsai exam, our lives will get better." Brother Sun didn't say anything more and went back into the house to report. That evening during dinner, Hishu unexpectedly rewarded me with the leftovers again, speaking with great affection. Heisey, eat more pig brain to nourish yourself. I'll have the kitchen prepare it again tomorrow. The Lord has made up with me again, and I'm happy in my heart, eating with a mouthful of oil. All right, I understand now, thank you, sir. There were so many people coming to the mansion to deliver money that Hishu was utterly annoyed. You go guard the courtyard gate. If it's something trivial under 5,000 gold, don't bother me with it, I gaped, unbelievingly looking at Hishu, who was lounging in a rocking chair, amusing himself with a falcon. 5,000 gold. My goodness, this world is truly unfair. Some struggle to survive, barely able to eat, while others have 5,000 gold delivered to their doorstep and can't be bothered to accept it. When too many people were rejected, they started to come up with ideas. Miss, here are 500 taels, please take them. I looked blankly at the kindly old woman in front of me, carefully pushing the silver back. Auntie, I don't want it, I have my monthly salary, I'm not changing jobs. When the woman heard this, she suddenly began to wipe away her tears. Miss, please, I beg you, if you think it's too little, I have more. Please, say a few kind words for us in front of the Lord. Our son, who is so disappointing, really didn't kill anyone. It's those lowly peasants who are conspiring to frame him. I'm kneeling to you. Saving a life is better than building a 7-story pagoda. Please, miss, do a good deed. The woman knelt on the ground, clutching my trouser leg and kowtowing repeatedly, all while trying to stuff a stack of banknotes under my skirt. I had never seen such a scene before and was terrified. I crouched down, spread my legs, and fished the banknotes out from my crotch, then stuffed them back into the woman's arms. Auntie, I don't want it, I really don't want it. You should give this money to the family of the person your son killed. Maybe they won't press charges against your son. The woman, who had just moments ago looked kind and gentle, suddenly changed her expression and spat out viciously. Those lowly peasants dare to think they can compete with us, a bunch of ants, trying to challenge us. The Grand Marshal's estate will play this out to the end. Her expression changed rapidly, and the veins on her hands stood out. I was afraid she would turn violent and hit me, so I clung to the doorframe and darted into the estate. Madam, my master should be eating now. I need to go attend to him, he can't do without me. As I ran towards the inner courtyard, the leaves on the trees rustled in waves. Just as I was about to enter the gatehouse, the senior shadow guard spoke in a hushed voice. Hey, Blackie, I knew you wouldn't take her silver, you really didn't let the Lord down. I tilted my head to look up at the tree, only realizing belatedly that the senior shadow guard had been watching me. When I saw him about to leave, I jumped up and grabbed onto the black boot of the secret guard brother to show my loyalty. Brother secret guard, master, is he afraid that I might switch jobs? So he sent you to follow me? I wouldn't do that, I am utterly loyal to master. He advanced me some silver, and I will serve him like a beast of burden for the rest of my life. 5 taels of silver a month, where else could I find such a great job? The aunt gave a lot, but her emotions are unstable, mother said. You must follow someone with stable emotions. Although the master speaks harshly, his emotions are very stable, and I have never seen him lose his temper. We can't let the master misunderstand. If I get kicked out, Brother Kui will definitely scold me. The dark guard tried several times, but couldn't pull it off, staring at me in disbelief. Hey, Heisey, why are you so strong? I scratched my head, desperate to cry. Brother Dark Guard, you must explain to the master. I truly only have him in my heart. The Dark Guard tried to pull his foot out twice more, gave up, threw down a piece of gauze, and said helplessly, Got it, hurry up and put it on. Go serve the master. While serving Hishu his meal, I stared at him intensely. Normally, with the way I'm staring, even the cows in the village would kick me, but Hishu has incredibly thick skin. Not only does he not feel embarrassed, but he also glances at me with a raised eyebrow after taking a couple of bites. What are you looking at? Even if you look, you won't grow into my appearance. I chuckled and flattered him by tearing off a chicken leg for him. I know, Your Excellency is the most handsome. He didn't take the chicken leg, his face full of caution. Whether I am handsome or not has nothing to do with you. You are not allowed to climb into my bed. No, that's not what I meant. My heart only belongs to Brother Kui. I just wanted to tell your excellency that I won't switch jobs. Even if others offer more silver, I will still serve you well, master, working for you like an ox or a horse." He sneered. "Who would be so foolish as to pay a high price to poach you? It's true, that old lady today wanted to give me 500 taels, but I didn't take it. I know I'm capable and strong, and the nobles in the city like me, but I am not a fickle person. My heart belongs only to you, my lord. I will remain faithful to you until death." These are the lyrics I heard a few days ago when I went out to buy groceries, sung at the opera house. The young lady in the audience was moved to tears, so it must be quite touching. His eyebrows twitched as he continued sipping his soup. "Blackie, if you don't know how to use words properly, just keep quiet. Also, the gauze fell off, cover it up tightly. The night was dark and the wind was high to show my sincerity to the Lord. I planned to stand guard with the hidden guard from now on." It was early summer, and the weather wasn't too hot yet. I sat down on the grass by the window, leaning against the wall, ready to spend the night like this. Hairpins chased the flowing locks, socks small to match the slender waist, nightly words of tenderness, daily grace renewed. Apart from his greed for money, he loved to sing tunes for no reason. Although I couldn't understand what he was singing, I found it quite pleasant to listen to. Once, I praised the Lord singing to God's son, and he scolded me with a flushed face. "Don't listen to the songs adults sing too often. It's not good for you. God's son always overcomplicates things. What's good or not good about it? After a day's work, listening to music helps you sleep." In the middle of the night, I was woken by noise. I heard a whimpering sound from his room, accompanied by clinking and clattering noises. "Not good, thief." I wiped the drool from the corner of my mouth and leaped through the window in one swift motion. Sure enough, I saw a figure weighing over 200 pounds pressing down on his shoe. His mouth was covered, and his hands flailed as he tried to smash things, but the figure on top of him remained motionless, looking utterly distressed. "Where did this petty thief come from?" "Don't be afraid, sir, I'm here to save you," I shouted with full force, and the burly assassin glanced back at me, sneering. "Black brat, this is none of your business. If you don't want to die, get lost." As he spoke, he raised his leg to kick me. I grabbed his thick leg with brute force, gave it a fierce tug, and smoothly dragged the assassin to the ground. The assassin and his both stared at me in confusion, their eyes filled with a hint of shock. By the moonlight, I could also make out the assassin's appearance. Oh my goodness, how could someone look so terrifying? Not only was his head a size larger than normal, but the scar on his face was even bigger than an adult's face, dark, black, and unnaturally thick. The assassin finally reacted, propping himself up to grab me. I was so scared I closed my eyes, afraid he would catch and beat me to death. So I just started smashing him wildly without a second thought. Ouch, damn. That fist is really hard. A quarter of an hour later, the secret guard knelt down in shock, begging for forgiveness. "Sir, I had some beef jerky given by God's son and got a bit of diarrhea. I never expected someone would seize the opportunity to attempt an assassination. It is entirely my fault. Please punish me, my lord." The room was lit with lamps. His clothes were disheveled, especially his face, which was flushed red from being covered. Looking like a ravaged beauty, the assassin lay on the ground, his face covered in blood, gasping for breath as he glared at me. His voice was hoarse from shouting, and he had no strength left. He didn't utter another word as the guards dragged him away. I was terrified too. This was the first time I had ever hit someone. The last time I had used such force was when I struck a wild wolf that had gone mad. "Do you know Kung Fu?" His ignored the hidden guard and looked up at me. I timidly squatted on the ground, rubbing my hands together. "No, I've just been digging in the field since I was a child, so I have a lot of strength." His hummed in agreement, but then, as if suddenly remembering something, his expression changed abruptly. He tightened his grip on his clothes and looked at me warily. "Blackie, what are you doing in my courtyard so late at night?" "I came to keep watch for you, sir. You gave me so much silver. If I don't do something for you, I won't feel at ease. My mother always said, a person should know how to repay kindness." The hidden guard nodded along. "Sir, I can vouch for him. Blackie has been dozing under the window the whole time, He definitely didn't climb into bed. Hishu glanced at me, looking rather distrustful. Heisey, you go back first. I'll reward you with money tomorrow. Hearing about the reward, I wasn't afraid anymore and happily walked out. When I reached the courtyard gate, I overheard Hishu quietly instructing the hidden guard. Be more alert from now on. Don't let Heisey into the courtyard at night. You saw it too. She's different from those other girls. If she tries to climb into bed, the two of us combined might not be able to stop her. My lord, Heisey wouldn't go that far. Hard to say, with my looks. It's only natural she might lose control. Stay on guard. Also, skin the assassin and throw him at the Minister of War's residence. Yes, the next day, Hishu gave me 2 taels of silver as a reward and treated me with more courtesy than usual, though for some reason, in the middle of summer, he inexplicably wrapped a mink fur around his neck. Of course, I understand that the master has special preferences. I weighed the silver and ran to find Guard Sun, who happened to be coming out of the outhouse, looking a bit pale. Brother Sun, what's wrong with you? Seeing me, Guard Sun walked over, clutching his buttocks, and said with difficulty, Miss Hay, may I ask, did the Lord eat your beef jerky? I shook my head. No, that was made for Blackhawk. The Lord said it was too rich and needed to cool down. Guard Sun's face stiffened. Oh, I see. Thank you for the beef jerky. Miss Hay, you're welcome. Brother Sun, Blackhawk can't eat that much. Do you want more? I still have some left. No need, if no one's going to eat it. Just throw it away. Don't give it to anyone else. I let out a confused "oh" and handed the wrapped silver to Guard Sun. Well, today the master rewarded me with 2 taels of silver. I was hoping you could help me send it back to the village. Is that okay? Guard Sun looked at the paper package, hesitating to speak. Didn't you just give it to him? Why give it again? Can't you keep it for yourself? No, I have no use for silver in the mansion. Brother Kui is different. He needs to study, eat, and prepare travel expenses for the imperial exams. Please help him out. Next time, I'll make you something else delicious. Guard Sun's stomach started rumbling again. Without another word, he took the silver and dashed toward the latrine. Hey, Brother Sun, take your time taking off your pants. Don't drop the silver into the pit. Summer passed into autumn, and then winter arrived. After several months of getting along, Hishu and I had developed a great rapport. Even his Black Hawk knew to come to me when it was hungry. On the day of the winter solstice, just as I was serving the master some dumplings, a guard from the estate suddenly came. Looking for me. Miss Hay, there's a man at the gate asking for you. He says he's a distant relative of yours. How could I have any distant relatives? I followed the guards to the main gate and saw a man in thin clothes standing at the entrance, looking around from afar. As I approached, I realized it was actually Brother Kui. Brother Kui, what brings you here? Brother Kui's face had grown much thinner, and when he saw me, he wiped away his tears with a look of grievance. Shinshi, you have no idea how much hardship I endured on the way to find you. The soles of my shoes are completely worn through. I looked down and, sure enough, there was a large hole in his shoes, and his exposed toes were red and swollen from the cold. My heart ached so much that tears began to fall. Brother Kui, how could you just come like this? It's such a long journey, and it's about to snow. What if you freeze? Brother Kui wiped away his tears and pointed to the carriage behind him. At first, I walked for a while, but I was afraid you'd worry about me, so I didn't dare to keep going. I rented a carriage for 5 taels of silver. Could you pay the man? 5 taels? I don't have any silver. I sent all of it to you. Brother Kui was taken aback and pulled me aside. What should I do? I rented the car all for your sake. This is the capital, and you're my only family here. You can't just abandon me. But isn't the minister treating you well? I heard from his guards that he keeps you by his side to serve him. He's so wealthy. If he just casually rewarded you a little, wouldn't it be more than this? Don't tell me you're reluctant to give it to me. Brother Kui grew more and more agitated as he spoke, his tone turning sharper. Shinshi, don't forget, it was I who showed you the way to get where you are today. One must not forget their roots. I was most afraid of Brother Kui getting angry, so I quickly grabbed his sleeve to explain. That's not the case. I really gave you all the silver, but don't worry, I'll go ask the master for a bit more. Just wait a moment. Brother Kui's expression finally softened. Hurry up, I'll wait for you. Mars, master. He Shu, having eaten his fill, was taming a hawk and didn't even turn his head. Was your tongue cut out? No, I was just wondering, sir, if you could advance me another 5 taels of silver. Reason, I told him about Brother Kui going to the capital, but since it was about asking for money, I felt a bit guilty and spoke softly with my head lowered. I know the 20 taels you gave me last time have just been settled, but you know how strong I am. I can do more work. I can do all the work in the backyard, chopping firewood, washing clothes, sweeping the yard, and cleaning the chamber pots. No extra pay needed. He Shu rested his head on his hand and looked at me, his tone indifferent. Is that enough? If you think it's not enough, I can also keep watch at night, and I can do the work of the hidden guards too. A hint of amusement flickered in He Shu's eyes. I'm asking if 5 taels is enough for you. The carriage fare alone is 5 taels, won't he need to stay? What about food and lodging? I never expected He Shu to be so easy to talk to. I lowered my head, my eyes reddening as tears began to fall. Sir, you truly are a good person. In all my life, no one has ever treated me better than you. Enough, don't embarrass me here. Go to the accounts office and take 50 taels. You'll still only serve me. Consider it an advance. Oh, and one more thing. Remember this above all else. Never try to climb into my bed. I looked at He Shu with gratitude, unable to control myself as I took 2 steps forward. He Shu thought I was going to hug him and was so startled that he half crouched. In the moment he stood up, I dropped to my knees and kowtowed to him 3 times. Sir, I swear, from now on I'll serve you like my own father. Dad, let me kowtow to you a few times first. Get lost. Was this given by the Minister of Personnel? The guard on duty outside the mansion was Sun, who glared at Brother Kui with a hostile look while gripping his sword. Brother Kui was a bit frightened, so he pulled me closer to the carriage. The minister is a good man. Use this silver to rent a house. Since you're here, focus on your studies with peace of mind. Brother Kui took the silver, turning it over and over in his hands, then bit it with his teeth, utterly thrilled. Shinshi, I never imagined you had such skills. What kind of person is that minister, to treat you so well? Now that we've connected with such a distinguished person, we'll have someone to rely on in the capital from now on. Did you tell him about my plans to take the imperial exam? I replied blankly. I did. Why do you ask? Excellent. If he truly takes a liking to you, he's sure to look out for me a bit. That way, there's hope for the autumn imperial exams. Thinking of those who had asked He Shu for favors, often paying tens of thousands in gold, I quickly shook my head. Brother Kui, the official is a good man, but his price is very high. We don't have the money to give him. He won't help you. Brother Kui suddenly ran his fingers back and forth over the back of my hand, winking and grinning. That's for others. You're right by his side. As long as you serve him well and make him comfortable, how could he bear not to give you some benefits? Seeing that I still wouldn't agree, Brother Kui didn't press further. He just put the silver away. Shinshi, you've been out for a while. Go attend to the master. I'll go look for a place to stay. We can talk more later. Thinking about Brother Kui's first time in the capital, I felt a bit worried. I'm not familiar with this city. Maybe I should take you. Brother Kui looked a bit uneasy, waved at me, and quickly got into the carriage. No need, I can manage on my own. Go back. Watching the carriage go farther and farther away, I felt a bit happy in this vast capital city. I finally have family, and it makes me feel more motivated to work. Brother Kui rented a single courtyard house in the city. It's not big, but it's enough to live in. He Shu is used to being taken care of by me and doesn't like others getting too close, so I rarely left the mansion, only managing to exchange a few words with him during my trips out to buy groceries. Brother Kui seemed quite interested in He Shu, always asking me about his hobbies and temperament. Thinking he was grateful to the master, I told him everything I knew and even encouraged him to study hard, so that he could repay the master properly in the future. Brother Kui was a man who knew how to show gratitude. He smiled and agreed, and even wrote a letter for me to pass on to the master. What is this? I know some characters, can read simple sentences, but do not understand the complex ones. Shinshi, the master has been so kind to you, and I should thank him. Please pass this letter to him, he will understand my meaning. I nodded and handed the letter to He Shu. During the meal, He Shu opened the letter, glanced at it briefly, then set it aside without saying much. In the autumn imperial examination the following year, Brother Kui failed to pass. Upon hearing the news, I asked the adults for an hour off and ran to comfort him in the small house. Brother Kui had been drinking heavily. When he saw me, he questioned me with reddened eyes. Shinshi, why didn't you beg him to help me? For him, it's just a matter as small as a fingernail. Why wouldn't he help me? Brother Kui was drunk and talking nonsense. I wrung out a cloth to wash his face, then poured him a cup of tea. Brother Kui, it's all right. If you don't pass this year, there's always next year, and the year after. You're so knowledgeable. As long as you keep at it, you'll definitely succeed. What, next year or the year after? Brother Kui suddenly stood up, pinned me down on the bed with his elbow against my neck, his eyes bloodshot. Shinshi, do you know how old I am this year? 25. I'm already 25. I don't have many more next years or the years after. I must pass this year, but the results have already been announced this year. Brother Kui leaned in, pulled the gauze off my face, his eyes hazy. Shinshi, isn't there still you, me? Truly, wealth nurtures people. You used to be dark and ugly, but after just 2 years under his care, look how tender your skin has become. You even resemble someone from the capital a bit. Brother Kui's touch made my face itch, and I instinctively pushed him away. Brother Kui was caught off guard and was pushed out by me. Falling to the ground, I quickly got up to help him, only to see Brother Kui suddenly change his expression. What? You've slept with him for 2 years, and now I can't even touch you? I was completely stunned, with 1,000 words on the tip of my tongue, yet I felt unable to utter a single one. Brother Kui struggled to get up from the stool, glaring at me with a cold voice. You shameless woman, stop pretending. You're nothing but a worn-out whore, and you still think you can use me as a fool. Don't think I don't know what you two are up to. If you hadn't sold yourself to serve him, would he have given you so much silver? And you even want me to repay him? You have no shame, uttering such words. Disgusting. I staggered backward, tears streaming down my face, unable to believe that my brother Kui could say such things. Retreating too quickly, I accidentally knocked over a stool. The loud noise seemed to sober Brother Kui up a little. He pressed his hands hard against his head, shaking it as he walked toward me, pulling me into his embrace, his voice softening once more. Shinshi, I'm sorry, I drank too much. I'm drunk. I was talking nonsense. Shinshi, I don't blame you, really. You did it all for me, and I don't blame you at all. Since you've already slept with him, you might as well ask for more. As long as I get an official position, we'll get married. Once we're married, you won't have to sleep with him anymore. We'll live a good life from then on. Slap. Brother Kui covered his face, looking at me in disbelief. I stared blankly at my hands, tears streaming uncontrollably down my face. Without waiting for him to speak, I rushed out the door. By the time I returned home, the night was already deep. Sitting under the corridor, I covered my mouth and wept bitterly, feeling as though my heart had been shattered. The leaves rustled overhead for a moment, and then He Shu arrived. He held the black eagle, standing under the dim corridor light with the bird, silently watching me. I knew he didn't like to see my face. For the past 2 years, I had never dared to take it off, afraid he would be disgusted. I frantically searched for my face covering. After feeling around, I realized I must have left it at Brother Kui's house in my haste. Thinking of Brother Kui, I felt overwhelmed with grievance again, covering my face and sobbing. After crying for a while, I felt something gently patting the top of my head, only to realize that, at some point, a person and a bird had already sat down beside me. He Shu's hand rested on my back, patting me now and then. The black eagle's claws pressed against the top of my head, also patting me now and then. I only felt more aggrieved, crying and wailing as I went on. I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean to. I accidentally lost my face covering. I'll make a new one tonight. The hand on my back paused for a moment. It's fine. Did he bully you? I stopped crying and looked up. Brother Kui didn't pass the exam. He drank too much. I know he didn't mean to say those things. He was just in a bad mood. He Shu hummed in agreement. Since you think he's not wrong, then why are you crying? I choked up, not exactly thinking he was right. But it's hard not to feel hurt after giving so much only to be misunderstood. Heisey, do you really want to marry him? How much do you actually know about him? We've known each other for many, many years. Of course, I know him well. His parents were educated people, well-read and kind-hearted. They always looked after me, and before they passed away, they promised me to Brother Kui as his wife. Sir, you don't know, many girls in the village like him. But his family only had their eyes on me. Hishu smiled helplessly. Maybe it's just that you're the only fool in your village. I turned my head away angrily. I'm not a fool. Hishu didn't say much more, just patted my back and said, Heisey, no matter how much you like someone else, always remember to love yourself first. If you give so much to a man, he won't cherish you. I looked up at Hishu. Is it because I'm not good enough? That's why he doesn't cherish me. Hishu lowered his gaze, his eyes sparkling like scattered stars. You are wonderful. He's the one who doesn't deserve you. He mistreated you, and he will face retribution. I never expected the retribution the adults spoke of to come so quickly, just 8 days after the results were announced. A group of scholars was suddenly arrested by the court, including Brother Kui. The reason was that they had bribed the examiners, agreeing on specific phrases and paragraphs in their essays to facilitate cheating. After the matter was reported, the Ministry of Justice quickly filed a case. The officials worked overtime to re-examine the candidates' papers and detained all those whose paragraphs and wording were problematic, taking them to the Ministry of Justice, and the Minister of Justice was none other than Hishu. Sir, how is Brother Kui? How will the court deal with him? Hishu had been extremely busy these past few days. The officials in the Ministry of Justice had to work overtime, and he couldn't return home either. When he finally came back today, dark circles were visible under his eyes. If the evidence is conclusive, these students will be caned 40 times and banned from taking exams for life. He has a strong constitution and won't die from the beating, so don't worry. Banned from exams for life. Brother Kui's only aspiration all these years has been to take the imperial examinations. If he were banned for life, how could he bear it? In my panic, I grabbed Hishu's hands and pleaded anxiously, Sir, he wouldn't cheat. He truly has talent and knowledge. Hishu looked down at my hand, the corner of his mouth inexplicably curling up as he suddenly said in a cheerful tone, You want this official to help him? But I don't have 5,000 gold. Hishu smiled a bit happily. No matter, this official isn't short on money either. Then what is it that you lack, sir? Hishu suddenly lifted my veil, answering with something unrelated. Shinshi, don't wear it anymore from now on. This is fine. I have some matters to attend to back at the Ministry of Justice, so I won't be eating. Didn't you just get back? Not eating. Hishu patted my head. Be good. Go play with the gerfalcon. Brother Kui was inexplicably arrested and then inexplicably released. The officials from the Ministry of Justice said that while the other scholars had indeed cheated, Brother Kui was falsely accused. He had only shared a few drinks with the scholars and had not participated in the cheating. However, because he failed to recognize the true nature of those around him, the Ministry of Justice, in order to teach him a lesson, still gave him 40 lashes. Take an hour off. Go quickly and come back soon. I'll wait for you to have dinner. I looked gratefully at Hishu, who had just stepped through the mansion gate and hurried out of the estate, picking up my skirt as I went. On the way, I even bought 2 tails of bruise ointment, but as soon as I entered the courtyard, I unexpectedly saw a woman massaging Brother Kui's waist. You said that with her here, the minister would definitely help you. Now it's all ruined, no official position, and I even got beaten up for nothing. I can't live this hard life with you anymore. The woman's voice sounded somewhat familiar. She gave Brother Kui a hard shove, then turned away angrily, wiping her tears. Brother Kui ignored his own pain, hurriedly got up, and took the woman's hand, trying to comfort her. Chiu Hong, don't cry, your tears are breaking my heart. This is all because of that bitch Shin Shi. It must be that I scolded her when I was drunk that night, and she went back and complained to the minister. That ungrateful woman. My parents helped her so much back then, and she repays kindness with betrayal. I'll make her pay sooner or later. Chiu Hong, my mind went blank, and I didn't even notice the medicine falling to the ground. So this is what Brother Sun meant when he said he was taking good care of her back then. She has the minister's protection now. How are you going to make her pay, Kui-kan? I'm telling you, it was you who promised me a good life back then, and that's why I left my husband and children to come to the capital with you. If you can't take good care of me, don't blame me for turning my back on you, brother Kui. Kui-kan pulled Chohong into his arms, his voice dark and heavy. Don't worry, that foolish woman Shinchi, just as she used to support us before, she'll have to keep doing it from now on. If she dares to stop supporting us, her good days will be over. Where are you touching? So annoying. I didn't cry. Returning to the mansion, I headed straight for the backyard to find Brother Sun, who was off duty during the day shift. Brother Sun, please tell me. Honestly, what did you see when you went to the village back then? Guard Sun was sleeping and woke up at the sound of my voice. Holding his blanket, he looked at me and said, "You already know, Brother Sun, I want to hear the truth." Brother Sun scratched his head. When I entered his house, he was disheveled, returning from next door, with a woman cursing behind him. I told him I was from the Ministry of Revenue's residence. He got very excited and asked if you were beaten to death, how much silver the residents planned to compensate, and also claimed that he was your fiancé. He said they had raised you for over 10 years, and if it was less than 50 taels of silver, he would go to the capital to strike the Wendeng drum. I plopped down on the edge of the bed, feeling the world spin around me. After I gave him the silver and flour, he asked me if you had been taken into the master's chambers. He said it was fine, but that he would expect 5 taels of silver from you every month in the future. I told him you were just a kitchen maid, and he cursed, saying that village women were good for nothing. The second time I went to give him silver, he saw that you had gained the master's favor and started making a fuss, demanding to come find you. Since he failed the preliminary exams and couldn't participate in the autumn imperial examinations, he wrote a threatening letter to the master using your reputation. The master, afraid he might say something reckless in front of you, made an exception and allowed him to take the exams. Black girl, your fiancé is not a good man, and is not capable either. He must have heard that the manor often punishes servants severely, and afterward, they provide generous funeral money. That's why he sent you to the capital alone. He wanted the money from your life insurance. Years of effort turned into a joke overnight. I forced a bitter smile, my voice hoarse when I spoke. Brother Sun, why didn't you tell me back then? The guard Sun sighed. Miss Hay, I originally wanted to tell you, but the Lord forbade it. Why would you have believed me if I had told you back then? We are not related by blood, yet you have been together for so many years. Even if I had told you, you wouldn't have taken it seriously. Instead, you would have grown suspicious of the people in the mansion, thinking that we didn't wish you well. The Lord is right. Everyone's growth involves going through hardships. Only by experiencing them yourself will you understand the importance of loving yourself and not easily trusting others in the future. I stayed alone in the room for 2 days, and Hishu didn't call for me to serve him on the 3rd evening. I prepared myself and went to serve the Lord with dinner. Hishu was originally training an eagle, but seeing me, he let the eagle play on its own. So soon you figured it out. I nodded shyly, feeling like a fool who had been laughed at by him for 2 whole years. Master, I've thought it through. Once I repay your wages, I'll return to the village. Hishu's expression changed, and he furrowed his brows as he turned back to look at me. Why, you're not getting married anymore, so what's the point of going back? Master, I never wanted to come to the capital. All my family is in the village, on the mountain. If it weren't for earning money to support Kui-kan's studies, I wouldn't have come to the capital. You and the people in the mansion have treated me very well, but I'm just a villager. Apart from farming and working, I can't do anything else. I won't support his studies anymore. Staying in the city doesn't hold any meaning for me. The drought in the village is gradually improving, and I'm not picky about food and drink. I still plan to go back to farming. Hishu looked at me without speaking, then after a while, revealed a mocking smile. Is he all you care about? You've been in the mansion for 2 years, and now you're just leaving without a thought for anyone else here. Seeing that the master seemed a bit angry, I quickly waved my hands. No, I'm not leaving right now. I still owe you money. I'll work until my debt is paid off before I go. Hishu snorted coldly, flicked his sleeve, and left unhappily. For the next few days, Hishu never gave me a good look, and during meals, he was even more picky. The meat is too fatty. This soup is so bland. Who are you trying to fool, FMH? Now that you're not earning money for men anymore, you don't even have the heart to cook for the Eastern Hawk. Look at this soup you've made. Why don't you just salt me to death? If you want to leave, just say so. Why go through all this trouble? Oh dear, I can't even mention it anymore. Before, you'd just laugh foolishly, but now you get red-eyed, so it's my fault for bullying you. Hishu doesn't just dislike me. He dislikes everyone else too. A few days later, the secret guard came to my room in the dark. Hey, Heisey. I was deep in sleep and startled into a jump, nearly slapping him into the wall if not for his quick reflexes. What's wrong? What's the matter in the middle of the night? The dark guard brother was dressed entirely in black, habitually standing in the shadows. Seeing him like that in the dead of night was quite unnerving. Hey, Blackie, how much would it take for you to stay? Name your price. What's happened? The secret guard brother plopped down, chugging an entire pot of cold tea in one go. Used to love singing songs, but would stop after just a few lines. These past few days, though, he's been up all night, wailing away, belting out those lewd lyrics. Who can stand that kind of thing? I scratched my head. Isn't it pretty good? The shadow guard rolled his eyes. That's because you can't understand. Hey, Heisey, brother is begging you. Promise him, stay. Brother will split half of the family savings I've accumulated over the years with you. Deal. I bit my lip. But, I still want to go back to the village. The shadow guard took a deep breath. Suddenly stood up. Fine. Consider me never having come. If I explode to death, my silver is buried 2 meters deep under the 38th tree in the mansion. Dig it up for your dowry. With that, he turned and left without looking back. 2 more days passed, and Sun the guard also arrived. He cautiously pushed a box of pastries toward me, speaking with great care. Miss Hay, back then, it wasn't that your elder brother didn't tell you, it's just that you were so young, and your elder brother was afraid of hurting your fragile heart. Even now, your elder brother hasn't told you. It's something you discovered on your own, isn't it? Besides, it's a good thing you found out early. There are plenty of good men in this city. Why would you give up this life of luxury for a blind scoundrel? It's not worth it. Listen to your older brother. It really isn't worth it. I pushed the pastries back. Brother Sun, I appreciate your kindness, but my mind is made up. I must leave. Captain Sun nodded. All right, since you've said so, I need to explain a few things. Do you remember the beef jerky you gave me back then? I nodded, unsure why he brought this up. Did you put at least half a pound of laxatives in that beef? You said you'd give it to the elder brother, and you did. Did he refuse you? I shook my head. See the difference now? That's the difference. The elder brother knew he would get severely ill, but he ate it without hesitation, out of consideration for your youth. Big brother not only ate it himself, but also pulled little 3 to eat together. The 2 of us were both sick for 5 days. That's how it was. Neither of us refused you. Reflect on yourself. Why are you now so heartless as to refuse Big Brother? Little 3 is Big Brother's secret guard, ranked 3rd in the mansion. Brother Sun, black girl, stop talking. Reflect on yourself. If you can come to your senses, stay. No matter how many pounds of laxatives you put in the beef jerky in the future, Big Brother will still eat it. With that, he swung his arm and walked away in a dashing manner. For the next few days, the mansion was much quieter. Hishu suddenly became busy with official duties and returned to the mansion less often. Sun and Lee, the 2 older brothers, had issues with me and didn't want to talk to me, so I spent my days aimlessly playing with Blackhawk. On the 7th night, Hishu returned to the mansion. It was the first time in years that I saw him walking quickly with a worried expression. He grabbed my wrist and pulled me into the house, then took out a thick stack of banknotes from his arms and handed them to me with a serious expression. You wanted to go back to the village and farm, didn't you? Perfect. You should leave first thing tomorrow morning. I've arranged a carriage for you, and the driver will take you back to the Tonghua village. From now on, you have no connection with the Ministry of Revenue. I looked at the stack of banknotes, puzzled. What do you mean, sir? I haven't worked my full term yet. You don't need to pay me any more wages. Hishu had lost patience and pushed me towards the exit. I've seen enough of your ugly face, official duties oblige. I'll give you some silver as compensation for wasting 2 years of your life in my residence, waiting for a fiancé who's now gone. Take the money, go buy a house, and maybe some man will take a liking to you for the wealth. No, sir, even if I leave, I don't want your silver. But Hishu didn't give me a chance to refuse. He gave a signal to the hidden guard. The guard grabbed me by the neck and took me out of the inner courtyard, closing the door behind us. The sky was still dark when Brother Sun loaded me, along with my luggage, onto the carriage. Black girl, hurry up and leave. Go back and live a good life. Don't come to the capital again. I was dazed, jostled along with the carriage, until we were almost out of the city when I overheard the guards talking. The ancients were right indeed. When the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. The former minister's residence was bustling with visitors, but now that it's fallen, everyone wants to step on it. Hishu, is insatiably greedy. He deserves to die, that's true. I hear he's taken bribes worth at least 10 million taels over the years. The emperor's treasury probably doesn't even compare to his wealth. Such corrupt officials who exploit the people's wealth deserve to rot in prison. On the crowded street, autumn Osman thus blossoms filled the air. I stood among the crowd, watching the prison cart carrying Hishu slowly pass through the center of the street. On the cart, Hishu, who hadn't been seen for half a month, was dressed in prison garb, chained to the cart's frame, his head encased in a wooden collar, and his hair disheveled. The townspeople eagerly reached into their baskets, pulling out rotten eggs and cabbage roots, hurling them at him while cursing. The rotten eggs cracked open on his head, their contents sliding down his face, staining his prison clothes. I suddenly remembered the day I first met him, when the young man strolled through the courtyard, exuding an air of grace. Yet in just 2 years, everything has changed. Tears streamed down the corners of my eyes. Afraid of drawing attention, I quickly wiped them away, pushed my way out of the crowd, turned sharply at the street corner, found a secluded spot, and leaned against the wall, gasping for breath. A rustling sound of leaves brushed overhead, and I immediately looked up, meeting the puzzled gaze of the hidden guard. Kuroko, didn't you leave? I brought Xiaosan back to my small house, located in a farmhouse on the outskirts of the city. I was planning to leave, but when I was leaving the city, I heard that the Lord had gotten into trouble, so I came back. The third side, hanging upside down from the roof beam with arms crossed. When he didn't want you to leave, you insisted on going. When he wants you to leave, you refuse to go. You're such a strange person. Brother Shadowguard, how did the master get into trouble? Tell me, how much silver will it take to save him? I still have some silver here. I'll give it all to you. The third jumped down from the beam, leaned on the table, and looked at me as if I were a fool. Blackie, do you know what crime he committed? Returning silver. He had too much silver. That's why the emperor wants to kill him. You should take the silver and run while you can. Don't worry about him. He's lived long enough these years. If he dies, so be it. Then why aren't you leaving? Xiao San smiled helplessly, a faint glimmer in his eyes. We're not the same. I've taken care of him for many years, finally managing to protect him until he grew up. If he dies, I'll have to collect his body, then kill the bastard who harmed him. After that, I'll take the silver he gave me and go live a carefree, happy life. Who harmed him, anyway? He's about to die. Since you stayed for his sake, I'll tell you. Hishu doesn't have the surname He. His family name was Lu, and his father was Lu Xiao, who was executed for treason and colluding with the enemy. Before being exposed for colluding with the enemy and betraying the country, Lu Xiao was the renowned General Wei Ting of this dynasty. Lu Xiao was exceptionally skilled in leading troops into battle, having led his soldiers to numerous victories, invincible wherever he went, and held extremely high prestige among the people. Yet, despite being so deeply loved by the common folk, this general was branded a traitor after his final victorious battle, and his entire household of 516 people, including the eldest princess who had married into the Lu family, were all slaughtered. The mistress said that after the imperial edict of condemnation was delivered to the Lu residents, General Lu refused to admit guilt and wanted to write a letter to plead his case, but the eunuch who came to deliver the edict snatched his brush, tore his paper, and urged him To die as soon as possible, he Shu's mother, the eldest princess and the emperor's most beloved sister, knelt on the ground and kowtowed to a eunuch, just to beg him to take her to see her imperial brother. But the eunuch raised his foot and kicked the princess in the head, saying viciously, "His Majesty does have a message for the princess. He says that if the princess still cares for their past sibling bond, she should personally kill Lu Xiao and his rebellious son, to relieve His Majesty's worries." It was only then that General Lu understood what talk of treason and betrayal. It was merely a matter of a peaceful era, where his achievements had overshadowed the throne, and the royal family needed him to die. He thrust his steel spear through the eunuch who had insulted his wife, then led over 100 guards from his estate to hold the gate. Fighting a bloody battle for a day and a night to buy time for his family, Lu Xiao repelled wave after wave of imperial guards. When he died, his body was riddled with arrows, and his guards remained within 10 paces of him until their last breath. Outside the Lu estate, the bodies of the imperial guards lay densely scattered. Whereas the princess, Xiao San, lowered his gaze. The princess knew that as long as she was alive, the young master would never be able to escape. She entrusted the young master to the gardener in the estate and led her people back to buy time for the young master. But the princess is a delicate flower of the royal family. Even General Lu couldn't hold them off. What could she possibly do? The imperial court wants to exterminate the Lu family, and the young master must die. What happened next? Fortunately, the gardener had a son about the same age as the young master. To repay the general's family for their kindness, he dressed his own son in the young master's clothes, killed his own son with his own hands, and left the body by the roadside. The court officials thought the servants in the mansion had abandoned the young master to save their own lives, so they took the young master's body back and stopped the pursuit. Xiao San wiped the corner of his eye hard and continued, "In the years that followed, the young master lived a very hard life. The gardener had no real means to support him, doing odd jobs for a living, barely scraping by. He often went hungry and cold, and when he was desperate, he even fought with dogs for food. Once, while fighting a dog for food, he was nearly beaten to death by the dog's owner. Blackie, you know, when a person has no power or influence, living is even worse than a dog. A human life is worth less than a single meal for a dog." Later, Hishu began secretly hiding outside the school to listen to the teacher's lessons. The gardener told him that the only way to rise above his station was to enter the court. Although the court is the most inhumane place of all, young Hishu smiled and said, "Then I will become the most inhumane person. Since the Lu family's loyalty has met such an end, Hishu will become the greatest traitor in the world, stealing the heavens and replacing the sun." Determined to bring down this decaying golden age, he passed the imperial examination at the age of 14, in the Grand Hall. While others spoke at length about the principles of governing the nation, only he told his uncle, the emperor, that in a prosperous and stable era, one should seize the moment to enjoy life. The emperor was furious and forbade him from entering the court, but later secretly summoned him to the palace to ask, what does it mean to seize the moment to enjoy life? Perhaps it was due to his nature, but no matter how exaggerated Hishu's words were, the emperor greatly admired him in His Majesty's heart. There are no external worries or internal troubles now. Having exhausted his efforts in the struggle for power and influence in the first half of his life, it is indeed time for him to indulge in pleasure. Hishu took him to frequent pleasure quarters, seeking out the most beautiful courtesans from various regions. He even built a garden 30 miles outside the city, delivering 1,500 catties of mulberry firewood, over 100 catties of white charcoal, 200 catties of red furnace charcoal, 10 taels of silver ore, 100 catties of black charcoal, and 200 catties of high-quality coal each month to produce elixirs of immortality for His Majesty. This expenditure was enormous, and the state treasury could not support it. His Majesty then instructed Hishu to amass wealth, to which Hishu readily agreed. To make it easier to amass wealth, His Majesty appointed Hishu to the position of Minister of Justice. Hishu adapted quickly. In his first month in office, he accepted 500,000 taels of gold to spare the heir of a marquis from the death penalty, and from then on, there was no turning back. At first, there were still people who reported him. Hishu smiled faintly and said to His Majesty, "Your Majesty, standing on this high platform with a range of 100 meters, do you think I could shoot Minister Zhong in the back of the head with a single arrow?" Your Majesty was intrigued and made a bet, saying, "If Minister he can shoot this old thing in the back of the head with a single arrow, I will grant you the salt mines in Jiangnan." He Zun curled his lips and secured the salt mines in one fell swoop. From then on, He Zun's accumulation of wealth became an unspoken secret in the court. Whenever someone's family was in trouble, they would carry a box and knock on the door of the minister's residence overnight, and the next day, the family member in trouble would be able to return home. As long as Your Majesty lives, Hishu will likely remain in the spotlight. Yet, back then, he had turned down the Grand Commandant's residence. He mostly manipulated matters of bribery and selling official positions, but the son of the Grand Commandant's residence forcibly seized a commoner's daughter, toyed with the young girl until she died, and even beat her brother to death. Though he knew he had long lost his conscience and had countless lives on his hands, he could not bear to harm an innocent young girl. Since no minister spoke up, the son of the Grand Commandant was sentenced to beheading. After that, the Grand Commandant's family held a grudge against him. Bribery among scholars has long been no secret. Previous ministers turned a blind eye to it, and as long as he had silver to take, he couldn't be bothered to ask, but that Kui-kan was foolish enough to bully you. So for the first time, he intervened in the affairs of the Ministry of Rights. The Ministry of Rights is a lucrative place, with many key positions held by imperial relatives. The bribery in the imperial examinations was a major scandal, causing severe public outrage. The emperor had no choice but to order the exile of several key officials. Because of this, he naturally harbored some dissatisfaction toward him. The Grand Commandant's family seized the opportunity to approach the implicated scholars. Although these scholars had engaged in bribery, they also possessed genuine talent and learning. Among them, some were skilled at imitation, and someone wrote a journal in his voice detailing years of bribery. The amount recorded in that journal was more than 10 times the National Treasury's reserves, and it also meticulously documented the maids he had beaten to death over the years. The household registrations of these maids were fabricated overnight, each one belonging to impoverished commoners, which incited tens of thousands of people to petition the emperor to execute him. Overnight, aren't they commoners? Xiao San sneered. Heizi, over these years, among the girls who entered the mansion, you are the only one who is truly a commoner. I recalled the girls during the recruitment, each as beautiful as flowers, indeed not resembling the kind that poor commoners could raise. The emperor knows he can't protect him and also plans to take this opportunity to seize his private assets for the national treasury. Killing him can also quell public anger. It's a move that achieves multiple goals. My heart twisted into a knot, feeling terribly distressed. Then, is there no other way for him? There is. What? Storm the execution ground. Hishu's execution date was set for 15 days later. Xiao San and brother Sun went to prepare for the prison break, while I, under the cover of darkness, made my way to a private residence. The three-courtyard house was brightly lit, with a man and a woman entangled inside, their moans and whispers incessant. Just as the two were at the height of their passion, I silently appeared at the head of the bed. The moment Xiu Hong opened her eyes and saw me, her face turned pale with fright. Xin Shi, afraid that Kui-kan's struggle might get in the way, I knocked him out with a punch, ignoring Xiu Hong's loud protests. He bound the two of them together naked with a cowhide rope. Perhaps heaven took pity on me, for it suddenly began to rain. The rain poured down, pattering on the bluestone slabs, so that the maids in the courtyard could not hear the commotion inside the room. I splashed Kui-kan awake with cold water. After a moment of confusion, he began to curse loudly. Psi 1111, what are you doing? Untie me at once. I'm going to be the chief clerk at the Ministry of Justice tomorrow. You'd better come over and kowtow to me to apologize. As long as you admit your mistake, I'll spare your life. If I'm in a good mood, I might even let your former master die a quick death. Looking at the ferocious Kui-kan before me, my heart was surprisingly calm and unruffled. How could I have ever thought you were good back then? For you, I walked for 2 months to get to the capital. Even when I came down with a high fever on the road, I didn't dare stop. I'd cool myself with snow and keep pushing toward the city. In the last half-month before entering the city, I ran out of food. I chewed on leaves and drank melted snow, my stomach aching so badly I couldn't sleep through the night. But I never backed down. I kept thinking that once I made it into the city and earned some silver, the two of us could live a stable life. And yet, this is how you treat me. Quican, I accept how you've treated me. I was blind, and a blind person should pay the price. But how dare you harm the Lord? The letter was written by you. Others may not know, but I do. You can imitate. You've been able to copy the characters from public notices since you were a child. Quican snorted disdainfully, not even bothering to offer an excuse. So what, Shinshi? I gave you a chance back then. If he had helped me, I would have naturally repaid him. But not only did he refuse to help, he also gave me 40 lashes. He brought this upon himself. I slapped Quican hard across the face, leaving him dazed and disoriented. Not helping you? How dare you say he didn't help you? If it weren't for the master, you would have starved to death long ago. It was the master who gave me silver to buy flour to keep you alive. After arriving in the capital, when you couldn't find a place to live, I heard it all. It was the master who had Guard's son find you a house and pay the rent. You've studied for half your life but can't pass the child exam. You used my hand to send a letter to the official, and it was he who made an exception to add your name to the list of examinees. Do you have any conscience? Quican, hearing this, grew furious and struggled frantically. Isn't that only right? He slept with you, so what's wrong with giving me a little compensation? I took a deep breath and swung my fist, pounding it into Quican. Quican is a bookworm. I've always been the one plowing the fields at home. He doesn't have any strength at all right now. I've beaten him until his nose and eyes are bleeding. He's completely dazed from the beating but still cursing. Shinshi, I'll kill you tomorrow. No one can save you. I'm about to become an official. I gave a cold laugh, pulled out the hairpin from my head, and stabbed it into Quican's spine, one blow after another where it hurts. I'll stab there. I'm strong. So every time the hairpin goes in, it goes all the way to the bottom. Blood flowed from Quican's body onto Chiu Hong, who opened her eyes wide in terror and screamed frantically. She wanted to call for the maid, but the rain was too heavy, and the maid couldn't hear her. I told you, even the heavens are helping me. He deserves it. He amassed so much wealth. He deserves to die. Having vented most of my anger, I took a stack of paper from the table, placed it by the bed, and handed Quican a pen. Brother Qui, copy this letter exactly as it appears on this document. I won't copy it. I'd rather die than copy it. Quican's face turned pale with fear after just one glance at the letter. I smiled, pressed the hairpin against the back of Quican's head, and whispered in his ear, Brother Qui, guess how much force I need to use to pierce through. Quican's body trembled uncontrollably, and his voice finally softened. Shinshi, I've copied it. Will you let me go? Brother Qui, you've copied it, which means you've helped me. But I also have leverage against you now. From now on, we're grasshoppers tied to the same rope. Quican no longer hesitated, trembling as he picked up the pen and started copying. It didn't take long before he finished. I held the letter up, comparing it against the light and the original document. The mistress is absolutely right. These scholars are all learned. The hairpin pierced through Quican's back of the head and emerged from his mouth, piercing through his tongue. My voice echoed through the room like a female ghost demanding a life. The official shouldn't die. It's you who deserve to die. Chiu Hong was terrified out of her wits, struggling desperately to push Quican away. Just moments ago, she was calling him her darling, but now she wanted nothing to do with him. Women are truly fickle. Shinshi, it's all his fault. He was hoping to take advantage of you, waiting for you to die so he could ask the minister for money and maybe even an official position. He's not human, he's a beast. You remember, when you were little, your sister-in-law treated you well. Shinshi, please let me go. I won't say anything. I'll go back to the village tonight. I carefully folded the blood-stained letter and tucked it into my chest like a treasure, my cold hand gripping Chiu Hong's neck. I used to be foolish, I know. You all treated me like a fool. You were kind to me because you thought I could work and earn money for you. That's not true kindness. Only the master has been truly good to me. The master said, when you cut the weeds, you must pull out the roots. You saw it, so you must die. Chohong's eyes widened, filled with despair. But you just said you'd let us go. I lied to you, and you actually believed it. Chohong died with her eyes wide open. I wiped away my tears and walked out of the room. Outside, the rain poured down heavily, as if the heavens were crying for me. Early the next morning, the Liu family's wrongful case was posted on the notice board after being washed by the heavy rain. Just last night, the current Prime Minister hanged himself at home. The letter stated that over the years, tormented by the wrongful case of the Liu family, he had been unable to sleep at night, always feeling haunted by vengeful spirits. After many years, in his twilight years, he decided to reveal the truth about the tragic death of the Liu family and listed the names of the court officials involved in the incident in the letter, with the first being the current emperor. A crowd of onlookers stood before the notice board, their cries of "when the cunning hare dies, the hunting dog is boiled" echoing through the capital. Soon, the emperor's private garden in the outskirts was also made public. The monthly shipments of gold and silver for alchemical purposes shattered the last shred of hope the people had held for their ruler. Storytellers in tea houses, clappers in hand, spun tales. The Minister of Revenue amasses wealth, all for the emperor's alchemical needs. Officials in court shield one another. With the emperor's tacit approval, loyal ministers vanish, while treacherous ones rise, all because the emperor's virtue has waned. Over the years, though there were no wars, the people's taxes kept rising. For some families, the grain harvested in a year was not even enough to cover their tax payments. Harsh governance is fiercer than a tiger, and this false golden age collapsed in a single day. The common people besieged the imperial palace, looting the private treasuries of the officials. Those who had been oppressed by the authorities in earlier years sought revenge and justice for their grievances. It is said that the Grand Commandant and his wife were stoned to death by a mob of commoners, with the lady cursing them as lowly peasants until her last breath. Meanwhile, taking advantage of the chaos, God's son returned to the residence and threw open the treasury of the Ministry of Revenue, shouting to the people, "Our master has amassed immense wealth over the years, yet he never spent it on himself. Apart from what was needed for refining elixirs for his majesty, the rest is all here. Our master said that his days are numbered, and all this gold and silver is to be given to the poor and suffering people of the city." The prison door was breached, and by the time the guards arrived, we were already out of the city. Xiao San was overjoyed, chattering non-stop. "You always said Heisey was foolish, but I told you long ago that Heisey isn't stupid at all. If it weren't for Heisey getting that handwritten letter from the Prime Minister, it would have been hard for you to get out." God's son nodded along. "When we strangled that old bastard, I couldn't even imagine how horribly you would have died if we hadn't gotten that letter. I didn't do much. Brother Sun wrote the letter. I just found someone to copy it. Hehe." The carriage jolted along, and Hishu leaned lazily against the backrest, listening with the same calm and composed expression as always. He didn't seem at all like someone who had just narrowly escaped death. It was as if it were just an ordinary morning, and he had woken up in his mansion, stretching lazily. I lowered my head and smiled. It was good. The master was still the same master. Night fell. Hishu drank 3 cups of tea, then staggered and pulled me toward the bed, mumbling as he went, "Why is my head so dizzy? Come on, let's go to bed and you can give me a massage." I saw he wasn't serious, so I kicked him over, tied my collar and waist tightly with a rope, even making a dead knot at my crotch, and declared with unwavering resolve, "Sir, I won't go, I won't go. I'd rather die than climb onto this bed." Hishu pretended not to hear, grabbing me by the waist and dragging me toward the bed. "Heisey, I don't mind you. I really don't mind you. Come on, let's talk." Slowly on the bed, I suddenly remembered what the steward said when I first entered the mansion, that he would let me return home in glory. I grabbed Hishu by the collar. "You gave all the silver to those commoners, so now you have nothing left." Hishu nodded pitifully, leaned in, and kissed me on the cheek. "Heisey, you'll take care of me from now on, right? After all, you're so strong." My heart twisted into a knot, and I had no strength left to struggle. My body went limp, and I fell, just as Hishu caught me. Why is my fate so bitter? Why do I always encounter men who live off women? Hishu smiled, picked me up, and carried me towards the bed, humming a suggestive tune. You haven't tried yet. How do you know it's soft? 3 months later, we arrived in the neighboring country. The carriage stopped outside a splendid mansion. As soon as Hishu alighted from the carriage, dozens of servants led by the butler bowed respectfully and called out master, while turning to me and addressing me in unison as madam. Hishu grunted in acknowledgement and strode into the mansion with a swagger. His pet sea eagle swooped down from high above, landing steadily on his wrist. Seeing my jaw drop open wider than a clenched fist, Xiao San whispered, "He's been embezzling for over a decade. The private treasury is just a fraction left. All a smokescreen to deceive. This guy, he's got plenty of tricks up his sleeve." Sun the guard nodded with his arms crossed. Amham, these were originally meant for the two of us. Now, in the end, they're still his. This is our fate. We'll have to be his oxen and horses for our entire lives. I nodded along. Me too. During the day, a lady. At night, an ox and a horse extra. It was much later that I found out Hishu hadn't planned to save himself at the time. He had survived for so many years only because of the drive for revenge. Their original plan was to clear the Lu family's name publicly on the day Hishu was to be executed, reveal Hishu's identity, stir up the capital, and then Hishu would die a noble death. Reuniting with his parents, it was my sudden appearance that disrupted his plans and gave him a reason to live. I stared in amazement at the vault filled with gold bars, tugging at Hishu's hem. "Why did you leave so much silver for the mistress and brother Sun?" Hishu pointed to Xiao San, who was sleeping soundly on the tree outside. "Back then, it was the gardener in the mansion who saved me. To save me, he killed his own youngest son, and Xiao San is his eldest son. At that time, Xiao San was training in the military camp. His father called him back before he died and entrusted me to him." Upon seeing me for the first time, Xiao San said, "Since my younger brother died for you, from now on, you are my younger brother." As for Sun, he was rescued by my mother and grew up with me since childhood. It was the Kunlun tribe who conspired with the Prime Minister to harm my father back then. After I became the Minister of Personnel, I took Sun with me to wipe out the Kunlun tribe, enslaving all their people. When we were leaving Kunlun, a black man nearly killed me, and it was Sun who took a sword for me. With reddened eyes, I wiped Hishu's face. "You've had a hard time all these years too." Hishu smiled frivolously and began humming a tune again, feeling sorry for me. Then why don't we go talk on the couch?" Many years later, Hishu and I had our own child. The child asked Hishu, "Dad, what do you like about my mom? She's so rustic and silly." Hishu flicked the child's forehead and said, "Who said your mom is silly? If it weren't for your mom back then, there wouldn't be your dad now. Then tell me, Dad, why do you like my mom? She's not even pretty." Hishu lazily basked in the sun, closing his eyes as he spoke. "No one ever said a flower has to grow into a sunflower or a rose. If you've experienced the deepest despair and the cruelest evil, you'll understand just how profoundly moving it is to encounter light, kindness, and the most beautiful soul. Shinchi is not the most beautiful, but she made me realize that in this bland world, there are people living with deep affection." After hearing the stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.